The witch is one of the oldest symbols in human storytelling. A woman alone in the woods, conversing with the unknown, and feared for what she knows. But beneath the broomsticks and black cats lies something deeper, something psychological. Every witch we grew up fearing had a story behind her, and that story usually begins with pain, exile, or power that was misunderstood. In this episode of Psychology Deep Dive, we're exploring the witch archetype. We'll look at where this image came from, what it says about collective fear, and how it's being reawakened, not as evil, but as intuition, transformation, and self-possession. So light a candle, and let's step into the woods together. Before she was a monster, she was a healer. Before she was a threat, she was a woman who knew too much. The earliest witches weren't villains. They were the midwives, herbalists, and wise women of their villages. They understood nature, the cycles of the moon, and how to ease suffering. But knowledge outside the church, outside male authority, was dangerous. And so the healer became the heretic, the midwife became the monster. In Jungian psychology, archetypes are ancient patterns that live in the collective unconscious, shared symbols we all recognize on some level, where emotion and meaning gather around universal experiences. The witch represents the repressed feminine, wisdom, intuition, sexuality, emotion, all the parts of human nature that patriarchal systems labeled irrational or dangerous. To fear the witch was to fear what could not be controlled, and yet she lived on, in whispers, in folk tales, in the secret rituals of women keeping their power alive in silence. By the 16th and 17th centuries, witch trials swept across Europe and the colonies, a mass hysteria rooted not in magic, but in projection. The psychology of a witch hunt is the psychology of fear turned outward, a community purging its shadow by destroying a scapegoat. And maybe that's why the archetype endures. Because the witch doesn't die, she transforms. She becomes a mirror for every part of us that's been silenced, misunderstood, or cast out. If the healer became the heretic, then the witch became the shadow. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is the part of ourselves we repress, the thoughts, emotions, and instincts that don't fit the image we want to project to the world. It's everything we're told is too dark, too wild, or too shameful to show. For centuries, the witch carried that burden for all of us. She became the vessel for collective shadow, the embodiment of everything society feared in women: power, anger, sensuality, knowledge of the body, communion with nature. All the things that didn't serve the order of control. But the witch doesn't live only in history. She lives in the psyche. Every time we silence our intuition, every time a woman hides her anger to stay likable, every time a man denies his softness to appear strong, the witch archetype flickers in the dark, reminding us of what we've buried. The witch is the wild feminine, and the wild feminine isn't evil. She's untamed. She moves in rhythms society can't measure, speaks in symbols logic can't translate. She's not chaos, she's creation before form, and that kind of power always threatens those who build walls around it. In myths, this is why witches live in forests, caves and thresholds, spaces between civilization and wilderness, consciousness and instinct. They are the gatekeepers between worlds, and that's what makes them both feared and fascinating. To meet the witch within yourself is to meet your own shadow, the part of you that remembers what it means to be whole, not perfect, not pure, but whole. For centuries, stories have carried her image, the witch, through forests, fires and fables. Every witch we meet in a story carries a curse, but not all of them were born from the same fire. Some witches become who they are through betrayal, heartbreak, or exile. Others seem to emerge from the darker corners of the psyche, symbols of hunger, envy, or corruption. Together, they show us both sides of human nature, the wound that longs to be seen and the weapon that protects what's left. Take Maleficent, for instance. Before the curse and the horns, she was a protector, a guardian of the forest, betrayed by someone she trusted. In her story, her wings are stolen, a violent act that takes away her freedom, her innocence, her sense of self. That betrayal hardens into rage, and the light that once protected the forest turns inward, becoming shadow. Her darkness wasn't natural, it was learned, a transformation forged in pain. But then there's the witch from Hansel and Gretel, the cannibalistic witch who lives in a house made of gingerbread and sugar. She lures children with sweetness, disguising danger as comfort. Unlike Maleficent, she has no backstory, no redemptive reason for what she does. She's simply hunger personified. Her evil is instinctual, consuming, mindless. A reminder that not every shadow hides a misunderstood soul. It's a perfect illusion. The witch who looks monstrous carries the wound of betrayal, while the one who looks kind carries the intent to destroy. It's the psychology of deception, how we confuse beauty with goodness and ugliness with danger. Fairy tales teach us what the psyche already knows, that darkness and light rarely live where we expect them to, that appearances are often masks as well as intentions, both for the witch and for us. For centuries, the fear of the witch wasn't just symbolic, it was real. It spread like smoke through villages, whispered through pulpits, and etched itself into lore. Between the 15th and 18th centuries, tens of thousands of people, mostly women, were accused, tortured, and executed for witchcraft. And yet, the real crime was rarely witchcraft at all. It was independence, it was intuition, it was being unmarried, outspoken, or simply existing outside what was considered acceptable. The witch trials were hysteria turned ritual, a collective purge of everything society refused to understand, a projection of the shadow. People needed someone to blame for the chaos, the illness, the fear. So they created a symbol and then destroyed it. And yet, the witch was never truly erased. Each flame only pushed her further into memory, into myth. The fires didn't silence her, they made her eternal, because what they were really trying to kill was the spirit of defiance, the refusal to be controlled. Some say the witch trials were about religion or superstition, but beneath that, they were about power, about order. They were about the terror that arises when someone no longer fits the story the world has written for them. And though we no longer burn people at the stake, we still burn reputations. We still exile those who make others uncomfortable, the women who speak too loudly, the ones who refuse to apologize for their fire. The methods have changed, but the impulse remains. The burning continues, just in quieter ways, and beneath it all lingers the same fear, that someone might embody a truth we've tried to hide from ourselves. But the witch was never just a warning. She was also a mirror, reflecting back everything the world tried to suppress. The very qualities that made her dangerous, her independence, her sensuality, her intuition, are the same traits that now define empowerment. To reclaim the witch is to reclaim the parts of ourselves that have been shamed into silence, the parts that trust instinct over approval, that create without permission, that understand that power doesn't have to be loud to be real. In modern times, she's no longer hiding in the woods. She's writing, painting, protesting, healing, making art from her pain. She's become a symbol for every woman and every person who has ever been told to be less. The witch has evolved, but her essence remains the same. She stands for truth that cannot be tamed, and for the quiet rebellion of being unapologetically yourself. Because the witch, in the end, was never about evil. She was about remembering the power of what it means to be whole. The witch has never truly vanished. She lingers in every woman who listens to her intuition, every artist who refuses to create safely, every voice that speaks what others are afraid to say. To meet her is to meet your own raw honesty, the part of you that refuses to shrink. The witch endures because she is not a villain. She is an invitation to live with depth instead of denial, to trust what the world calls irrational, to hold your fire and your softness in the same breath. And maybe that's what frightens people most, not her darkness, but her silent power. Thank you for watching Psychology Deep Dive. If you'd like to support the channel, you'll find the link in the description. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me next time as we keep uncovering the mysteries of the mind, one story at a time.